subscribe to Books on Toast, or I'm told that you will have no potatoes in your biryani.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special interview on the Books on Toast channel. I'm Sharon.
And I am Anuya.
And today we are speaking to Megha Majumdar, whose debut novel, A Burning, was our first ever Books on Toast Readers Club selection in August 2020. Woohoo! The Books on Toast Readers Club, or the Board Readers Club, for those of you who don't know, is a first of its kind book club that we started to get you guys to start reading regularly with a new book in a choice of your genre each month. So we aim to run multiple reading rooms in different genres, starting from literary fiction, to sci-fi, to fantasy, mythology, maybe even demon erotica, who knows, everything goes. Each month we select a book, sign up interested members, find a way to get the book to you, and if you're lucky, sometimes we even find the author with us so that we can have an enlightening session with them. So make sure you follow us on Instagram and not miss any book club updates each month, because we're keeping it limited to a few members only so that the experience of reading is intimate and fulfilling. And with that, I'll let Anuya introduce Megha to all of us and then bring her into the discussion.
So I just want to say that we have a very special guest with us here today. Her name is Megha Majumdar. Her debut novel is making waves everywhere, all over the world, and we are so lucky that we could get her as our as the first author featured on the Books on Toast Readers Club. So thank you so much, Megha, for doing this with us. We are very excited to have you.
Oh my God, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And can you tell our readers, our viewers who are going to watch this, who haven't yet read your book, a little bit about yourself? Now I know that you were in Harvard and you're currently living in New York. You went to Harvard and you're currently living in New York. What else can you tell us? What do you do? What are you doing right now? And after that, also answer our favorite question, which is, what are you reading right now?
Yeah, I grew up in Kolkata and I moved to the US to go to college at Harvard, and now I live in New York. I work as an editor, actually, so my whole life is in books. I work with a small press here called Catapult, and we publish literary fiction and narrative nonfiction. So I really love being very close to books in kind of all parts of my life. So that also means that I'm always reading. So I'm very happy you asked me for reading recommendations. It's my favorite thing. I'll recommend a new book, which I really loved. It's called A House is a Body by Shruti Swamy. And this is a collection of short stories. And they are so sophisticated and elegant and really complex. You know, they're just the kind of story that when you finish reading each, you need to sit there with it.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to ask you your first book-related question, Megha. I mean, this has been a year like no other, right? And what a year it has been to have a debut novel out as well. It's possibly the worst year in living human memory, but I'm sure it's meaningful for you as well. But with the pandemic raging and considering, everything that's going around the world, were you worried about the book reaching its readers, and how did you react to the positive reception?
For sure, you know, it's been a really difficult year. It's not at all the environment in which I imagined my book would launch. Um, so I think, you know, what I've tried to do is, first of all, remember that there are huge things at stake right now. You know, people have been sick and lost family members. People have lost jobs and had, you know, salary cuts. And so everybody's dealing with a lot right now. And so I'm very aware that, you know, my book is not the biggest thing on anyone's mind, as it should be. So I've just tried to hold that in mind, that it's a summer where people have big things to worry about, big questions. And at the same time, I wrote a book that I worked really hard on and that I'm really proud of. And I hope it has a life beyond this summer and this year.
That's lovely. Speaking of lovely, um, I loved the three characters that you have uh, the three characters from whose perspective you've written each storyline in the book. And even though my favorite character is lovely, what it starts with a single terrorist act, right? Like the burning of a train. So I just want to know, so much in the book reflects what's happening in real life. Where did the idea from the book come from, and what was your intention behind its creation? Like, what were you hoping the one message that people would take from it would be?
Wow, big question. You know, it came from a place of just observing what was happening in India, reading the news, and wondering, how do people move forward in a society where systems and institutions often do not serve them, and especially in a society where this kind of extreme hatred-filled nationalism is on the rise. How do people hold on to their ambitions, hold on to their spirits, hold on to their personal morals, or, you know, maybe they surrender them? So I just wanted to look at how people live through such a time.
Mm.
I mean, I'm so glad that you are asking about the characters, because I felt that, you know, the characters were different ways of asking this question. You know, so there's a central character in the book who is a young woman, and she gets into big trouble for a careless comment on Facebook. And that arc really felt like a way to explore competing narratives. You know, what kind of narrative does the state seek to put on someone, and what kind of story do they want to tell about themselves? The second character, who is a school teacher, I wanted to see how somebody who has this very ordinary life, he just works at the school, how will he act? What will he surrender when he gets a chance to secure his grasp on a little bit of political power? And the third character, who is called Lovely, I wanted to see how somebody who is in a place of really complex marginalization, um, how do they chase this wild dream of being a movie star?
Mm.
Um, yeah, I mean, but I'm also glad that you're asking about characters, because both of you do creative work as well. And Anuya, you just mentioned that you do script writing, so I'm guessing that you work with characters quite a bit as well. Is that right?
Yep.
Tell me about your experience writing characters.
Wow, she's turning this around.
Yeah,
Ah,
I saw that. Go
yeah,
on.
my experience writing characters. I mean, nobody on our channel wants to hear about my experience writing characters, but I'll tell you. I'll tell you
I
anyway.
want to hear it. I think people want
I
to hear it.
I I love writing characters. I think the greatest challenge is how to make sure that each one feels real and is extremely unique. And I've often wondered, when screenwriters are writing real characters, the paradox is that they can never be real because they're imagined. So we infuse them with quirks and we give them these very like cause and effect kind of behavioral, aspects. So this person behaves a certain way because this happened to this person. However, in real life, I've realized that people just do things um, without any actual real cause. Like there are so many times when I've just done something because I felt like it, because at that point in time, that was my state of mind, which led me to take that decision. So I find this whole paradox of creating real characters very fascinating, because, is it as easy as slapping on a few quirks and giving them a reason for everything? Does that make them real? Or, does the fact that they reflect who we are in real life make them real? I feel like, just a bunch of observations can create a character that seems real. But anyway, that's why I enjoyed your characters so much, because I felt like you found that sweet spot between, um, characters who they are imagined, yes, who feel very real. Like they seemed like they had entire lives behind them before they entered this book. You know what I mean? It
That is
wasn't
high
like
praise.
that. So yeah, you're right, and that's why I see now when you say that there was sort of like three sides of the same story, right? Like the same theme explored in three different ways, and that does happen. Which I want to then ask you. What I found very interesting was your choice of names. G1 is not a very traditional, say, Muslim girl's name. I don't know anybody named G1, boy or girl. Then PT sir, of course, PT teacher didn't have a name at all. And then Lovely, also, that's a moniker, that's not a real name. So why these three names, and what was the intention behind them?
Oh, that's such a sharp question. Jeevan, I really wrestled with because I was aware that, it's a boy's name. It's not a very common name. Maybe it doesn't fit the profile of this character that I'm trying to write. So I actually, while I was drafting the book, I tried changing the name a few times and made it something else, but it never sounded right to me. For some reason, I mean, how so much of creative work is often listening to your intuitions and allowing room for a certain kind of illogic or irrationality. Something just feels right, and so this name felt right to me. And even though I tried changing it to more logical things, those didn't feel right to me. So I came back to this. And then PT Sir, it's funny because I just imagined this character, a PT teacher. And that's what we would call such a character in school when we were kids. And in my head, it was always like PT Sir. And so I never thought that he would have a name or an identity that would be apart from it, because that work and that place of like going to your job every day, being seen a certain way by the kids around you, that was so much what his life was before he started changing it. And Lovely, I thought about a name that this character would be drawn to for herself, a word that would hold spirit and aspiration and some sense of how this character wants to be seen. And I think there's something so gentle about the word, especially for this character who understands in a very granular way how ungentle the world is toward her. So for her to carve out this space, this element of identity that is fully hers and that is fully what she wants it to be, that felt important.
Wow, that's really cool. It's also interesting that because they had these interesting names, it has a lot to do with the plot of the novel as well, with the what happens to how they are sort of ill-fated from the beginning because of their names as well. But one thing that I did observe when I was reading this novel is the fact that all of them were vulnerable in their own ways as characters. They were flawed, but that's how humanity is. Do you feel, in your experience while doing your research, and also the fact that you all gave them such interesting and very distinct voices, because that oscillates in the chapters as well? Was it difficult to develop the narrative in these three different voices? And also, do you feel when you put people with different backgrounds in a pressure cooker situation with the backdrop of like a terror attack, their vulnerabilities are heightened?
I do think that people who are vulnerable in their real lives, those vulnerabilities don't disappear in other terrains. So for example, social media, which might sometimes be seen as this place where you can, say anything, tweet anything, put anything on your Instagram. But, many of us know that that is just not true. And people have actually gotten in trouble for liking things or forwarding things and making jokes. So I think that it is true that that vulnerability is always present, and people are always aware of it. Um, and then, sorry, what was the first part of your question?
The fact that you had developed them in three different voices,
Right.
was it difficult to stick to the narrative flow because there were three voices in 3 different chapters coming in one after the other?
Yeah, I mean, that is such a beautiful writerly question. And I love that you asked that, because I worked really hard on having these 3 characters who, you know, their stories meet and intersect, but I really wanted each to have their own full arc. And so how I wrote it was, I had these 3 separate documents where I was writing each character, just to make sure that, you know, each storyline feels full and robust and like it can stand on its own, and there aren't, you know, strange gaps jumping between the characters. So I did that first, and then I kind of put these 3 documents together, and then I had to stitch them in a way where a lot of the work actually was making sure that they meet in meaningful ways that don't feel artificial, and also making sure that time moves in the same way across these 3 arcs, you know? So I can't have a page where somebody's wearing a sweater, but somebody else says it's really hot, or, you know, so just like making sure that I was thinking about seasons, and there's a mention of festival. So like, when should that festival be there? And just thinking about time was a lot of the work.
It sounds really complicated.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how, I mean, I think you know this, but so much of creative work, you hope that you get to an end result that, you know, is fun and polished and engaging. But so much of the work of getting there is slow and often tedious and very detail oriented. So yeah.
Which brings me to my next question. Megha, why is your book so cynical? How much of Megha has found its way into this book? And what about happy endings, Megha?
I don't think it's a cynical book. I'm sure it can be read that way, and that is totally up to the reader, you know, if they think it's a cynical book. But I think for me, cynicism implies a lack of hope. And I think there's a lot of hope in the book. Well, I don't want to give it away, but some of the characters achieve various degrees of success. I think it was important to me to show that success in such a society is always polluted with the immoral decisions that you have to make on the way. It's always polluted with disappointments and regrets. So there's no such thing as pure happiness, or, you know, this kind of pure like achievement. I think that such a society makes you complicit. And being aware of that is, you know, part of the burden that people carry forward. So I wanted it to be truthful, and that's what felt truthful to me. But at the same time, it's a book that is also about love and dreaming. It's about big ambitions. It is all about how people chase the kind of meaningful life that they want. Jeevan wants her job at a mall. PT Sir wants a more comfortable standard of living for himself and his family. Lovely wants to be a movie star. So I think this is very much a book about hope.
So Megha, I'm going to ask you very elemental question is, what are you working on next? What can you tell us about your upcoming projects?
I'm working on my 2nd novel very slowly. It's very different from A Burning. That's all I'll say for now.
It's a slow burning.
But is it also fiction?
Yes, it's fiction.
Okay, awesome. All right.
Awesome. Then we have something to look forward to for next year's Readers Club.
Thank you so much.
Like forcing a deadline on her. Just like that. Yeah.
You're like, get it written.
It's called a vaccine. That's what a slow burning is.
Yeah.
Truly
Okay,
what we
great.
need next year.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Megha, for doing this. This was amazing. We are so excited that you joined us, and we loved our burning so much. So, guys, it's lockdown time. I know everything is opening up and you are allowed to go out, but that doesn't mean you should go out. What you should do is stay at home and you should read. And the book that we recommend and the one that we will put a link to in our description section is Megha Majumdar's A Burning. Okay? Read this book. And also, if you like this video, please share this video. Whatever you want to say to us, to Megha, please leave in the comment section. Let us know what you thought about the book and what you are expecting from the book. And also, subscribe to Books on Toast, because why haven't you done that yet? Do it now, okay? Now. Do it now.